Hello, welcome to another episode of the Ask Minister Yo podcast. We are going to talk about promotion today, how to get divinely promoted. How can you get promoted and it lasts? The way to get that type of promotion is to be promoted by God. So we're going to talk about how to do that on today's episode. Let's jump in. So, in order to get promoted by God, He requires a few things. One of those things is faithfulness. So, Psalm 75 and 6, let's go to the book. Psalm 75, 6 says that promotion doesn't come from the north or the south, that promotion comes from the Lord. Let's also look at Psalms 3, 3 and 4. I'm sorry, Proverbs 3, 3 and 4. It says, let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favor and a good name in the sight of God and man. If you want promotion, if you want divine promotion, then you need to practice faithfulness. Yeah, that sounds good, Minister Yo, but what is that? I'm glad you asked. Faithfulness means to be reliable, to be steadfast and unwavering. To be faithful means that you have a lifestyle of obedience to God. You don't just obey Him here and there. To be faithful to God means that you are a good steward, that you practice the art of stewardship. So, what is stewardship? Stewardship is the ability of you to manage well what somebody else entrusts you with. Let me give you some examples of stewardship. We all know money is a stewardship because money belongs to God. And God trusts us to bring the tithe and the offering to our local church. That's stewardship. We also have a stewardship of our families. God has blessed you with a spouse. Well, God calls you to meet their needs, not just their financial needs, not just their physical needs, but even their sexual needs and their emotional needs. It's not just okay to say, well, I pay the bills, or I keep the house clean, or I cut the grass, well, I wash the dishes. Yes, but are you consistent? Are you steadfast? Are you meeting your emotional needs of your spouse? Are you speaking their love language? Because your spouse is a stewardship. What about your children? Having children is a blessing, but children are a stewardship from the Lord. And we can talk about divine order a little bit later, but um there's God, there's your spouse, and then there's your children in that hierarchy of divine order. But God looks at how faithful you are to your spouse and your children as well when He's considering you for promotion. Because what God doesn't want, because He is such a good Father, He doesn't want to promote you and you're not ready, because then the promotion is going to give you sorrow. So He wants you to be ready for the promotion. And sometimes that readiness means that there are some things in our character that we need to get in order. So faithfulness has 5 characteristics. Faithfulness involves loyalty. It involves trustworthiness, steadfast love, number 3. It involves patience, number 4. And number 5, faithfulness involves commitment. Did you hear what I just said? I said faithfulness involves loyalty, trustworthiness, steadfast love, patience, and commitment. Well, let's break those down. What is loyalty? Loyalty means I got your back. I'm here for you. You have my support no matter what. I'm your ride to live. I got you. That's loyalty. A Bible character that popped in my mind when I thought about loyalty was King David. I think about how loyal he was to Saul, even in that season when Saul was trying to kill him. When Saul figured out that he was going to be replaced by David, instead of him mentoring David, he had the opposite reaction when he wanted to kill him. But instead of David being justified in killing somebody God had lifted up, David said, no, I'm not going to try to kill him because he's trying to kill me. David said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to honor him. David honored his position as king. And David's loyalty to Saul not only brought safety and protection to the kingdom, it brought money, but it also brought fame. Because after David killed Goliath, David went back to keeping his father's sheep. He's like, I'm going back to my life as normal. But God had taken his spirit from Saul, and Saul was tormented. And David was known as being an awesome musician. So David could play the harp. So David was summoned to play the harp for Saul. And when David played, it soothed the torment that Saul was feeling in his soul. But as soon as David stopped playing, Saul was trying to kill him. So much to the point where David had to flee and run and go take refuge with the Philistines. Yep, the Philistines is the giant that he killed. How bad does it have to be for you to leave home and go to where your enemies are to find safety? Wow, that's deep. But David's loyalty to Saul caused God to see something in him that caused him to be promoted. David's loyalty to his family. He was mistreated by his siblings, and his loyalty to them caused him to be seen by God and be promoted to king of Israel. Number 2, trustworthiness. To be trustworthy is to be someone who keeps their word. Are you trustworthy? Is your word your bond? If I ask people around you, does Minister Yolanda keep her word? What would they say? Do you keep your word? What would they say? Do you say you're gonna do something and then don't show up? Are you trustworthy? The Bible character that jumped out at me when I thought about being trustworthy was Job. Job was trustworthy, in my opinion, because he could be trusted with suffering. Did you hear what I just said? Listen, life be lifing, okay? There are good things and bad things that are going to happen to everybody. Job was spiritually mature enough to know that there are good things that's going to happen in my life. There are bad things that are going to happen in my life. And no matter what goes on, I trust God. And that's what he did. He walked through his season of suffering, and he was an amazing example of how not to let your situation cloud how you feel about God. And because he was so trustworthy, he kept his word. He loved God when other people would have cursed God and died. He lost his business. He lost his cattle. He lost his sheep. He lost his goats. His sons died and his daughters died all at the same time. All of them died the same day. They were all in a house together, and a strong wind came, what we would call a tornado, and destroyed the house and killed them all. Killed them all. He lost all his children the same day. Talk about suffering. Talk about heartache. Talk about pain. But God knew Job's character, and God knew that if he allowed the enemy to test him, that Job would come out on top. And Job did. He came out of that thing with a stronger faith in God, and God gave him double for his trouble. He had more beautiful daughters, more handsome sons, and he had twice as much property and money as he had before he went through his time of suffering. See, Job was trustworthy, and God could trust him with suffering. Job was also trustworthy in that his friends came accusing him of doing something wrong and that he was the cause of all this suffering in his life. And Job was like, no, I didn't do anything wrong. And they like, oh, yes, you did. Because God just don't pick on people. And this happening because you just reaping what you sow. And these were his friends. And God said, the only way I'm going to not curse your friends is if you pray for them. So now Job had to turn around and pray for the people who was accusing him of something he didn't even do. Job was a bad dude. Number 3, steadfast love. I think about Joseph. Steadfast love is what we would call unconditional love. It's loving other people despite how they treat you. That's unconditional love. That's the kind of love that Joseph had for his family. And because he walked in that kind of love, he loved his brothers so much, despite of what they did to him, the whole pits and selling him into slavery stuff. He loved them so much that he fed them during the famine. He could have had his promotion. He got his promotion where now he was second in command in Egypt. And the rest of the world was starving, and people were coming to Egypt to get food. Joseph could have said, we ain't got no food for you. But he didn't hold a grudge. He realized that God sent him ahead of his family and provided a way for his family to be fed during the famine. And even though all the stuff that he went through wasn't cool, Joseph was mature enough to know that all those things work together for his good. And now that he's in this position where he's able to feed his family, he's in this position where he now has land, he has money, he has cattle, he has prominence. So he sends for his father, he sends for his brother, his family, and all of them, they come and live in Egypt, in Goshen, where they are taken care of during the famine. And that's because Joseph's love was steadfast, it was unwavering, and that caused him to be promoted. The 5th characteristic of faithfulness is patience. Patience. Patience is waiting cheerfully in faith, believing that what God said, he is going to do. Patiently waiting for your answer to your prayer. You know who came to mind when I thought about patience. Who came to mind was Uncle Abraham. Yes, Uncle Abraham gets the Patient Man of the Year award. He waited 24 years for the promise of a son to come. And even though he had this little hiccup with Ishmael, God was faithful to keep his word to him. And he had a son when he was 100 and his wife Sarah was 90. They had a son, and God was faithful to keep his word to them as it relates to a kid. And God was also faithful to Abraham to keep his word to him because Abraham promised to give his descendants the land that flows with milk and honey, and God did that. Abraham didn't get to see it, but God kept his word, and Abraham's descendants lived in Canaan, which was the promised land. The fifth characteristic of faithfulness is commitment. Are you committed? Do you keep your word? If you say you're going to show up, do you? Do you show up? Or do you make an excuse every single time? When I think about commitment, I think about Hannah. I think about Hannah was barren and she wanted a child so bad, but God wanted a prophet. And so she said, Lord, if you give me a son, I'll give him back to you. Because Eli was aging. Eli was getting old, and his sons weren't mature enough to handle becoming the next priest of the temple. So Hannah was like, okay, God, I got a proposition for you. If you give me a son, I'll give him back to you, and you can have a prophet. And God said, bet. So Hannah conceived and had a baby, and it was a boy. His name was Samuel. And when he was weaned, about 2 years old, she took him to the temple and she gave him to Eli, and Eli trained him to be a prophet. Isn't that good? But God kept his end of the promise, and she went on to have 5 more kids after Samuel, because God was faithful that if you give me this child, then I will give you other children. She was committed to her end of the bargain. I can imagine it was hard to leave him there and go back home, but she was committed to keep her word, and God was faithful to keep his. So we see that faithfulness is important. But bring this home, Minister Yo. How can I demonstrate faithfulness in my everyday life? Make this relatable to me. I'm glad you want me to do that. So, this is how you can demonstrate faithfulness in your everyday life. Number one, you can be honest. Just be an honest person. Keep your word. Do what you say you're going to do. If something comes up and you can't make it and you promise you show up, give them a phone call, shoot them an email, send them a text. Just don't ghost out on your responsibilities. Be honest. Have integrity. It is very important. You can demonstrate faithfulness by spending quality time with people who are important to you, whether it's your parents or your siblings or your spouse or your children or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Spending quality time with people, your presence means a lot. We talked about divine order earlier. God values divine order, and he looks at that when he's considering you for promotion. Are you going to keep the main thing the main thing? Are you going to spend quality time with him? Number one, are you going to spend quality time with your spouse and your children and your family? He looks at how you spend your time, and how you spend your time is one way that you can demonstrate being faithful. Spending quality time with God and your family is one way that you can be faithful. Another way you can be faithful is to avoid procrastination. I am the queen of procrastinating. I work better under pressure sometimes, but I am working to get out of that because I know that procrastination is not the way to go. So start your assignments on time. Finish the work your bosses or supervisors give you. Finish them early if you can and do them with excellence. Don't throw stuff together. Don't rush and have all these typos and here you go. No, do your very best on every project. And then your bosses will say, okay, I like how she did that report. And she gave it to me before I asked for it. Okay, she understands the value of my time. She understands that making money for this company is important. So you're positioning yourself to be looked at for promotion. Another way is to maintain a good attitude. Oh man, I've seen so many people get promoted and their bad attitude caused them to be demoted or fired. Having a good attitude will take you a long way. You have to remember that you are working for God. You're not working for that person. I work for God, and how I treat my clients is a reflection of not just Him because I'm a Christian, not just a reflection of the company that I work for, but it's a reflection of my parents too, because they raised me better. They raised me to be respectful. And so I'm not letting them down by being disrespectful. I'm going to have a good attitude. I'm going to talk to everyone with respect because everyone deserves respect. Did you hear what I said? Whether you disagree with my political position, whether you disagree with my religious stance, I am worthy of respect, and so are you. In order to be promoted, we must maintain and exemplify a good attitude. Another way is to support those in need, whether they are strangers, friends, or family. You can support them emotionally, financially, or spiritually. You can promote them emotionally by just being there when they're going through, by calling and checking on them, by listening more than you talk, by making the conversation be about them and not about you. You can support people financially by giving to them, not necessarily money. You could give them a card. You could say, oh, I was thinking about you, and go to Dollar General or Family Dollar and just get a 50-cent greeting card and give it to them or mail it to them and write a sweet note inside. That doesn't cost much, but it's the thought that counts. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Did you hear what I just said? I said people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And especially if you believe in God for promotion, there are going to be people under you. You got to learn how to think about other people and not so much only think about yourself. That makes for a great leader. And then spiritually, you support others spiritually by your prayers, by interceding for them, by finding out, listening when they're talking, finding out what's going on in their lives. And whether they ask you to pray or not, just pray for them. And when God brings them across your mind, that's because He wants you to pray for them, not talk about them, not spread they gossip, but pray for them. Another way that you can demonstrate faithfulness is to surround yourself with people who are faithful. You want to be a leader? Surround yourself with leaders. You want to be a boss? Surround yourself with CEOs. You want to be a school teacher? Surround yourself with school teachers. Whatever you want to be, surround yourself with that, and you will become that. And then lastly, to demonstrate faithfulness, you have to make a decision to do it. And once you decide, I want to be faithful, pray and ask God to help you, and He will. Pray and ask the Holy Spirit to search your mind, to search your heart. And if there's anything in there that is hindering you from being faithful, if there's anything in your soul, anything in your heart, anything that is keeping you from being a good steward, from being faithful, anything that's keeping you from being loyal, anything that's keeping you from being trustworthy, anything that's keeping you from walking in love, is there anything that's keeping you from being patient? Is there anything that's keeping you from being committed? Holy Spirit, search me. And if you find anything that is keeping me from being promoted, reveal it to me and give me the grace to change. The Holy Spirit is here to help us be better, but He's a gentleman and He is not going to do anything if He's not invited to. So invite the Holy Spirit to help you change and then believe Him for the grace to walk it out. That's your exercise for this week. Pray and ask the Holy Spirit to reveal to you anything that is keeping you from being promoted, anything that is keeping you from being promoted in the secular world or in the church, because both elevations are controlled by God. So you can't say, well, I'm going to do good in church and I'm just going to give my boss whatever. God's looking at all the things that you do. He's not just looking at what you do for Him. He's looking at what you do in the world, because you're doing that in the world for Him too. You just don't know it. Everything you do unto the Lord. So be consistent and faithful in what you do at work and at church and at home, because it's the whole of it that's going to lead you to being considered faithful by God and being on a fast track for divine promotion. I'll give you your journal prompt, food for thought this week. As you go through this week, I want you to think about the question, ask yourself, am I faithful? Am I am I faithful? Am I faithful to my employer? Am I faithful to my family? Am I faithful to God? Am I? And if not, what do you need to change so that you can become faithful? That's your homework. That's your journal prompt. Are you faithful? And if not, what can you do to become faithful? Hey, that's my best shot. I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of the Ask Minister Your podcast. But before I go, I want to invite you to partner with Yolanda Bethea Ministries. Our goal is to spread the love of Jesus Christ all over the world and to grow disciples. So when you give to our ministry, you're not just sowing seeds, but you are helping people grow in God to the point and creating disciples. And then they go out and create more disciples. You are fulfilling the mandate to go and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ when you give to us. I want to thank you in advance for your gifts. You can go on my website at yolandabetheaministries.org to donate. We appreciate every donation and we thank you for your support. See you next time.